Hello everyone, Ollie here from 𝕬𝕗𝕚, and quickly before we get into obviously today's topic review, for returning people, subscribers, whatever, they know what I look like. If you haven't seen already, or couldn't tell already, I've shaven my beard. Yeah, I just thought I'd rip the band-aid off and see what happens. And do I regret it a little? A little bit, because it looks weird. I look baby face now without my long bushy bit hair. The reason why I actually mainly shaving it off, I had a lot of bald patches here, and I thought, well, I thought I'd trim it a bit, and then I just thought, fuck it, I might fuck it up, so I just thought shave it all off. So here I am, baby face Ollie. But it'll grow back eventually. Probably take a while to get back to that state, because especially my chin was very bushy. If again, for people that aren't new here and do know my face, you'll know that it looked very bushy. So that'll probably take a couple months, maybe. I don't know, we'll see how long. Which I've noted down, you know, the day, December 5th, when I shaved it off, so I'll know over time until I get back to that state and see how long it actually took, because I actually can't actually remember exactly. I'm just estimating probably a couple of months when I last shaved it. Well, maybe not all off, but a good bit of it, but it's been a while since I've actually fully shaved it. So anyway, just thought I'd let you know, because you'll probably be like, oh, well, it looks a bit different, it looks a bit more young, and that's the reason why. So yeah, anyway, back to the main topic for today's video, of course, and that is going to be my review for Five Nights at Freddy's, the adaptation from the video game series that spans back to 2014, created by Scott Cawthon, however you pronounce his last name. And yeah, this is going to be interesting because obviously, you know, Five Nights at Freddy's is like a big phenomenon for the gaming industry. Obviously, it peaked back in 2014, 2015, when the first game came out. I think it was 2014, probably the back end of 2014. So yeah, yeah, it's interesting because I've already rewatched this film. I believe this is my first rewatch, so I've watched this for 2 times now. 2 times. I'm swearing at you. 2 times. And I actually, obviously, one, I wanted to rewatch it in preparation for watching Five Nights at Freddy's 2, which I'll be reviewing with NerdTube tomorrow, so Saturday, because it's Friday today. Yeah, I'm semi looking forward to it. I mean, obviously, I'll explain my thoughts, why, and obviously my thoughts on this first film and how it will reflect on how I'm feeling about this second film coming out. That's already just come out. I think it's come out today, actually, December 5th, which is the day that it come out. So before I get into my thoughts on the film, I'm going to give you a bit of my brief history on to the game franchise, however you want to put it. The first time I heard about Five Nights at Freddy's, as far back as I can remember, is I think it was either my last year in primary school, so year 6, or the first year in secondary school, so year 7, when I heard about it. This is 2014, 2015, when the first game had just come out. So you know, oh, Five Nights at Freddy's, all my peers in my school are talking about it, and you know, some of my friend groups talking about it, and I didn't really like pay attention or, you know, go out and discover it or anything. I was just like, yeah, okay, Five Nights at Freddy's, apparently a horror game, and I since obviously coming and actually researching and ended up playing the game, I had no idea it was about animatronics or anything. No one had properly given me any like description of it, which is a bit weird. Again, it's very blurred, but I do remember very vaguely someone mentioning it, and you know, didn't really give a proper description on the game really. So I didn't know it had anything to do with animatronics or security guarding. So yeah, and that was until probably, well, the last time the first time I actually completed the game. Well, the first game, I've completed the first game and played. So I've played almost every single one of them, but I've only completed the first game, the second game, the third game, the fourth game, and Sister Location. I have played the Pizzeria Simulator game, which is, well, at the time was on phones. tablets, etc. But obviously it's come on PC and everything. But I haven't completed it because I got fed up with it. And then I also had played Ultimate Custom Night, which is obviously the game where you can obviously create your own, add any of the animatronics you want and all the bits and bobs. And I got a bit bored with it after a while, just because, you know, I liked just the games where you can actually play it nights 1 to 5, and then obviously you got 6th night, which I, you know, attempted to fucking finish, but it just never happened. So, and I do have video proof of me playing Five Nights at Freddy's 1 to 4 and Sister Location and the Pizzeria 1 and the Ultimate Custom Night. I will leave a link in the description below where I played, where I did gameplays of them on my previous channel before making 𝕬𝕐𝕗 Talk Cinema with Dusty. Yeah, I had a gaming channel previous to this called 𝕬𝕐𝕘𝕙𝕥𝕤, and it was primarily gaming. I had a couple of other bits, but when I made these videos, it was like within the first year when I created the channel. So yeah, those are the games that I played, and yeah, you can go check those videos out if you wish. You can see younger Ollie and less so confident in what I was saying. So yeah, this was like 6 years ago now. So yeah, beware that I am quite different to what I am now. So yeah, so I'm going to leave the playlist in the description below so you can go check them out if you so wish. So yeah, that's kind of my main history on the FNAF. I'll just say FNAF, I guess, for now, because it's, you know, the quicker way of saying it. So FNAF, obviously when they announced the film, which was obviously initially back in 2014-15, when it was going to be in development, but it just got stuck and it got acquired by Blumhouse, which is a very notorious horror production company, independent production company, created by Jason Blum. And yeah, Blumhouse are notorious for having films that release that are hits or misses, and I couldn't tell you how many exactly that I thought were a hit and a miss, but when this was announced and when it was acquired by Blumhouse, I was like, this could go either way, really, again, because there can be hit or miss. And I didn't go to watch this film in the cinema. I don't know why. I don't know if it was just because I was a bit worried about it, or if I'd heard bad reviews about it, or I don't know why I didn't go to watch in the cinema, but I think Dusty did. Again, the co-founder of the channel, for people that are new here. But yeah, I need to check in with her and see what her thoughts are on it, because it'd be interesting. So anyway, I ended up pirating the film because it hadn't come out on Blu-ray yet, and I think it was in between when it was, well, just after it came out on cinemas, and also just it was in that period where it just come out in cinemas, but it, you know, it had its run, but it hadn't been released on Blu-ray or digital, so I ended up pirating it. And it wasn't the worst quality ever, but it was watchable. And yeah, I was a bit very meh about it when I'd watched it, but this was like back again when it just come out in cinemas, but hadn't quite reached Blu-ray or digital services. So yeah, so it was probably like early 2024 when I watched it. So well, actually late 2023, early 2024 were around when it just after it came out. So, but yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on that before, you know, before coming to rewatch it this time round. So yeah, I don't think I have much else to say unless I've forgotten, in which case I'll probably be annoyed when I come to edit this. But I think we're just going to head straight into my positives and mixed and negatives on, you know, on the film now after rewatching it. Okay, so starting off with my first positive, I honestly think this film, which a lot of video game adaptations don't usually do well, depending on the film and the franchise and who's behind making the film. Usually when it comes to fan service and basically what the fans want and how close is it to the source material, because a lot of video game adaptations, and a lot of them, a lot of the ones that I've heard that aren't good, I haven't watched, but from what I've heard, I think there's plenty like Assassin's Creed or like Warcraft, and there's some others, maybe like the Resident Evil games, like the Resident Evil films, the kind of early 2000 ones to mid 2010 ones. I think I can't remember exactly the time period, but I think it was because those ones were, you know, there weren't any characters from the franchise. I haven't played Resident Evil. I played like a bit of one of them, but I don't know the whole lore or anything, or the story. But none of the characters from the games made it to that. So I'm just saying that a lot of video game adaptations don't do that very well. Whereas with this, I think in terms of the fan service and what they got right, a lot of it, the majority of it, was great. In terms of, obviously, the look of the animatronics, which we'll get more into a little bit later on with the positives. But the fact that they were able to get the aesthetics right, like the sets, like they made a whole fucking building of the pizzeria, like that was brilliant. I'm glad it was just so good how they were able to, because it could have just been green screen and it just would have looked weird. But I commend Blumhouse, whoever it must have been Blumhouse who financed this film, because it's only like $25 million budget, which is pretty damn good when you consider a lot of films with massive budgets that usually, you know, get things wrong, if that makes sense. But with this, with what a lot of Blumhouse films do very well, with trying to constrain the budget and try and make it good enough for a small budget, and obviously it is an independent company, but I'm just saying that Blumhouse, one thing that they do well with almost all of their films, despite maybe the story being a bit like their budgets, the way that they are aware of how much they need to spend on films and try and have a tight-knit budget without going off the rails with, oh, we need big this, we need big that. We'll have a small amount, this is how much we'll give you, go do it. And usually, most of the time, they do quite a decent job with it in terms of how things look, if that makes sense. So with Five Nights at Freddy's, I honestly think a lot of the stuff, the aesthetics with the pizzeria, with the stuff that's to do with the game, obviously the pizzeria, the animatronics, which again we'll get back to in a second, and you know, recreating some of the characters as well, like Mike Schmidt, obviously played by Josh Hutcherson in this, and then William Afton as well. Again, for people that don't know the lore of Five Nights at Freddy's, I'm not going to go into this video. If you want to know about the lore and all the story, go watch someone who breaks it down, and I know there are channels out there that do that, so do that, because I'm not going to be explaining it, because I don't know the whole premise myself or the whole lore. I know some of it, but not all of it, so that's just it. So in terms of fan service, it's great for the most part. Nostalgia, the lore references, like you can be like, oh, but that's cool, like that's there, like the Celebrate poster in, you know, like in the first game, and I don't know if it's in the other games, but at least in the first game, obviously when you're in the office, there's the Celebrate sign with all three of the animatronics. And obviously got the cameras and everything. Like, I think they did that really well. My second positive, I would honestly say, for people that aren't into horror and are trying to get into the horror genre and want a good gateway horror film, I think this one serves itself quite well for those people. But for people like me, which I'll get into a bit later on, but I'm just saying, for people that aren't so familiar or into the horror genre and want to try and get into it, but want to start off a bit timid, if that makes sense, like not very scary, I think this one is a good starting point for those people that can, you know, accessible. It's accessible to younger viewers or people that aren't into the big jump scares but just want to start tiptoeing into the genre. I honestly think this film, you know, is a good starting point, basically. The next thing I will commend, which I've briefly brought up just earlier about the animatronics. The animatronics themselves, I love that they're practical. I love that they are full suit animatronics with people inside them, not actually robotic ones. They're actually people inside, stunt people inside the suits, which is really cool. And I commend Blumhouse, whoever else, that decided to do that. I don't know how else they would have done it, to be honest, in a way that was really as good as that. Like, I don't know how they would, like, it would just make, I don't know if it's cheaper to do CGI or practical effects. I'd like to think it is practical effects that's cheaper, and just looks, it's just way more believable as well. The actors who play off with the animatronics can see them and be like, ooh, whereas it's not just like a fucking green tennis ball. So yeah, that's that's definitely one of the biggest things I can commend for this film is the practical effects, the real animatronics that actually are in there. Like the look of them as well are so damn good, like damn near exactly the same as the ones in the games, especially the first one, because the first game is mainly based on this. Or sorry, this film is mainly based on the first game, but obviously have some Easter eggs on, maybe on some other ones. But I honestly think the practical effects are really damn good, especially on the animatronics. Yeah, I think the practical effects are really damn good on the animatronics specifically. And also, again, like I said, the whole pizzeria place is really good. The way that they recreated that in whole form, really good. Yeah, I also think there's some decent jump scares. I mean, there's not enough, which I'll get to later on, but the ones we do get are fairly decent. There's a scene, which I won't spoil too much. There's a scene around the middle of the film where these guys break into the pizzeria and break everything up, and then obviously the animatronics are angry and, you know, they target towards them and kill them all, essentially. And that was probably arguably the best scene in the film, because that's the moment where we actually see the animatronics do their thing, which is what they obviously do in the games. And then obviously there's a turning point later on in the film where people are very mixed on it, and obviously I'll get to my thoughts on that. If you know what I mean, you know what I mean. But the scene where the animatronics have their best moment is that point where those people break in. Yeah, it was definitely the pinnacle point in the film and arguably the best scene. So, yeah, decent jump scares and some fairly good atmosphere as well. Like in the pizzeria, like you get a little bit tense and creepy. I wouldn't say it's like really terrifying, but it's kind of tense. It's a PG-13 film, I should point out as well, which doesn't always mean it's bad for a horror film. A lot of people want a horror film to be rated R because then they can go, oh, gore, all that kind of shit. And there's not really gore in the Five Nights at Freddy's games. It's just mainly jump scares. And that's it. It's more psychological and jumpy and everything. It's not gory or, you know, like Mortal Kombat, or I'm trying to think of other horror games like Resident Evil, or, you know, those kind of games, like where they kind of need to have gore because it's kind of part of the whole charm with their games of the original source material. So yeah, I think PG-13 is fine as long as you get everything right, and, you know, also I'll get to my other parts of that. But that's another positive that I can commend for this. And my final positive, I will say, I do like the two main characters we follow, Mike Schmidt, Josh Hutcherson, which I've already mentioned previously, briefly, and obviously Abby as well. Obviously Mike and Abby are brother and sister, and the whole kind of thing with them is that Mike is trying to get custody of his sister because his aunt, or their aunt, is trying to get Abby because there's some benefit towards it, and, you know, it's the money, and, you know, and to begin with, they have a rocky relationship with each other for reasons that are explained, but you kind of understand it. She's a little bit whiny and a bit like nonsensical towards him, and Mike's trying at least a little bit. He's a bit leery, and, you know, he's got problems from the past, of course, with his brother, or their brother, having nightmares about, you know, the person who kidnapped his brother. Already forgotten the brother's name, but I don't know if he actually has a brother in the actual games. I don't know. I don't know the lore that much, but from what I know, he doesn't. But someone in the comments will correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, I found that kind of interesting. Like, there needs to be something there for a story rather than just the whole. I mean, some fans might argue with that and say actually it should just be on the animatronics and everything, but I didn't mind the whole mystery behind Mike trying to find who's the killer. But the way they execute it in certain aspects is a bit weak, but I'll get to that later on. But I do like Mike and Abby, and obviously their relationship kind of growing throughout the film, and, you know, his care towards her, and, you know, that love for her back to him, you know, because, you know, she's a bit lonely herself. She doesn't really have any friends, and, you know, you kind of feel empathetic towards her, and you want to just like hug her, and, you know, you want to her to get friends and obviously, you know, have a social life, because she all she does is draw in her room. So you feel bad for her, and you also obviously feel bad for them both, because they're actually going to be evicted because Mike lost his job, because of a reason to do with the film, which I won't get into, at least right now. But yeah, I like it, but you know, I'll get to more in a bit. But I just thought I'd let you know I like Mike and Abby, and part of their relationship, you know, I like that they kind of grow out towards the film. And, you know, from kind of not hating each other, but kind of having a bit of a rocky relationship, to, at the end, you know, kind of having a good, well, not healthy, you know, a good solid relationship. So, yeah. So my first mixed, I'm not too strong on it, but the reason why it's in my mixed is because I just thought I'd bring it up, because it's also something that some people, because when I do these reviews, I need to let you know, for people that are new here, when I do these reviews at home anyway, at least I try and, when I do the positives, mixed and negatives, I try and have my own, but also have ones that may fit in with maybe you guys that are watching, other people that might have the same experience. So I have my own positive, mixed, negatives, and then also try and add in some other ones that I think you guys might think as well. So yeah, so I'm going to be adding some in here, but I feel a little bit with this first mixed aspect, but also I can see other people being a bit myth about it, is the tone of the horrorous of the horror aspect, because obviously it is a horror game series, FNAF, so you want them to be able to give off that really good atmosphere, and I mean, it does that to an extent, but some people feel like they retained that PG-13 rating because they wanted, obviously, to appeal to more younger people, more of a younger audience, so they want to expand it. And obviously it makes sense, because FNAF isn't a mature horror game series. It's, you know, it is horror, but it's kind of, it's arguable that it's kids horror, but it's on the tamer side than like Resident Evil, or I don't know, I can think of on the top of my head, but Resident Evil is very gory and graphic, and you know, it's not kid friendly whatsoever. But with Five Nights at Freddy's, there's no gore whatsoever, really. It's just mainly jump scares and frights and ooh. So in a sense, with what it does with the film, the way that they did it, it was okay, but some people, I'm just saying, that may find it a bit tame compared to most horror films they watch. But I just want to let you know that that is kind of what the film is about. So what the games are, it's just jump scares and stuff. But I feel like there should have been a bit more to it. Like, there were a couple of the got me, and I was like, ooh, like the bit that I mentioned earlier, that when the people broke into the pizza place, and that was kind of the big highlighting point, and parts of the end as well, the climax bit. But I would like to a little bit more, maybe. But that's one of my main mixed, and perhaps another one that other people would have. The plot and some of the character-driven choices, and you know, kind of mixing that with the horror elements as well. Like, a lot of the film drives itself more towards the drama and the whole thing with Mike and his abducted brother that he tries to find. And he obviously tries to dream them, and he obviously takes like sleeping pills, like while at home, but also while at work as well, while he's at the pizza place. So he's sleeping on the job, and he's trying to rekindle those dreams and those moments with, you know, when he's with his family, when they were younger, and, you know, when he's trying to figure out who's this person that kidnapped my brother. And he wants to rekindle that moment and try and figure out what's happening. So, in a sense, that's kind of cool, but I don't know, the way they balanced it out alongside with the horror, I feel like it should have been more, I don't know, it just, I can't quite put my finger on it, but it's just like, I just wish there was more horror than there was of the drama, even though I did say in my positives that I do like Mike's character. I mean, I wish it was a bit more explored, but we'll get to that. But I just wish it wasn't too on the nose for that. I just wish there was more jump scares, and I just wish there was more aim towards the animatronics. I mean, there were stuff to do with the animatronics, which was interesting in a way, but yeah, I just wish there was more horror than drama, if that makes sense. So that's my second mixed aspect. My next one, I think it might be my final one. Okay, I think I'm going to go to the negatives now, because I think that I just had two mixed. Now, my negatives, I will say, I mean, it's not mainly for me, this is mainly for other people, the non-FNAF game fans. If you're coming into this film not knowing really anything about Five Nights at Freddy's, you obviously won't notice any of the nods, like the references and the Easter eggs and stuff, which it's always better when you go into a game adaptation to play the games, because you'll get that extra thing. But with this, I think, even though it does really well with doing the fan service and everything, if you haven't played the games, then there's not really that much to offer. It's a very generic. Like, I tried to have 2 pairs of glasses on as a fan, but also as a generic fan of films, as he's a horror fan. And there's not really that much to offer with this film, minus all the fan stuff. Like, I just think the story was alright, it was serviceable enough, I'd say, but it was just, there's not really that much to endure with this, in the sense that there's not much meat in the sandwich, I guess. I don't know where the fuck that came from, but basically there's not a lot of flavour. There's not, I mean, obviously, I don't know, I guess it really depends on who you ask, but the way I watched it, again, trying to not see it as a game fan, I think it does struggle with trying to keep the generic audience at play. I mean, I know it depends on who you ask. Maybe there are if there are people out there that haven't played the games and have only taken from what they've seen in the film. They may like it, they may not. Again, it depends. But just from me, my perspective of it, I tried to see it as that. And, I just think for the film, I think you're not going to get too much out of it. It was basically my first negative, really. I honestly don't. Now, this is a bit of a spoiler for people that haven't seen the film. The ending, well, I say the ending, it's kind of the halfway point almost, maybe just slightly over the halfway point. I just don't, the whole thing with the animatronics and the fact that who they really are and what happening, the whole thing with the kids that William Afton, Matthew Lillard's character, that kidnaps the children that Mike sees, but also what Abby ends up saying that she sees, are in the actual suits. The children that William actually abducts, and kills, I'm guessing, because they're dead. I don't know how I felt about that, because it got to a point where they got all friendly, and I mean, in a sense, it's kind of cute for Abby's sake, because it's like she doesn't have any friends, and they're animals, and they don't really want to hurt anyone, but they're being controlled by William. I don't know. I don't really know how I felt about that. I probably should have had that in my mixed, but I don't know. I needed to bring it up somewhere, but I'm very torn between having it in my mixed or negatives, but I don't know how I feel about it. Like, them being not a threat, because they are a threat in the games, as far as I'm aware. So I don't know. I really don't know how I feel about that they're being I mean, the whole thing with possession and that their bodies are actually in the suits is quite dark in a way. Like, it's like he's put the fucking bodies in the suits. They're not just haunted. They're actually in the suits. So it's kind of like creepy in a way. But it's also not, because you kind of find out, this is before the climax. We kind of find out what happens before it ends, like before the big climactic moment. Which, by the way, the whole thing with, because this film, this is kind of moving on to another negative, I guess. I'm kind of moving on now, is the expectation and the reveal of who's behind it all, because it's, I mean, even I tried looking at it as a perspective as a non-gamer, because obviously people that play the games know who William Afton is and know who the villain is, and going into it you'll be like, oh well, obviously it's going to be William Afton, it's going to be Matthew Lillard, because obviously it's Matthew Lillard, and obviously it is, and it's not really any surprise. So I tried in that sense as well. I tried to mainly focus on this film as a non-gamer, but it's honestly it's really difficult to do that, because obviously, one, I've already seen the film, but also with that mindset of already knowing of what happens, it's difficult. But I honestly think it's very predictable of who would be the villain. Like, if you just see it as a standalone film and not play the games, it's not a very big cast, and the fact that Matthew Lillard is there, and he has his kind of behaviour. I mean, I love it because it's Matthew Lillard. Which is something that I should mention in my positives. It's Matthew Lillard. He was great for how much he was in. I wish he was in more, but he was good. But you could tell that it was him. There's only like a few characters in the film, like major characters. You got Mike, you got Abby, you got what's her face? Fucking the police officer that's his daughter. I can't remember fucking her name now. But the officer, the blonde police officer that's William's daughter. Like, she's in it, so it's those three, and then obviously William, and then you got the aunt of Mike and Abby. Like, obviously she's kind of a villain as well, that the fact that obviously she wants to take custody of Abby because of the benefits, but there's also a bigger threat as well, and you're like, who else is there? Oh wait, Matthew Lillard, and there's not really many other characters in there that can be like, question like, oh, who is it going to be? Like, is it going to be an unknown person, or is it? And the way they portrayed it and executed the film, the story and everything, like with the character, I don't know, I just found it very predictable. Like, again, seeing it as a non-gamer a non-fan of the games. So at least that's just me. Maybe some people are very naive, maybe, and be like, oh shit, I didn't notice that. I don't know. It depends on you. But for me, without, because it's kind of biased, because I've played the games, I know what it is. So in that sense, I already knew going into it, so it's a bit disappointing in that sense. But anyway, but I did like Matthew Lillard, and I'm glad that he's coming back for the second film, and I'm very curious to see on how they portray him in this film, and what will happen basically with him and the other characters. So I think there's only one more negative I have. Actually, I don't know if there's anything else really. Like, is that 2 or 3 negatives? I don't know. I just think, I don't know. I just overall, what I did like is I liked Mike and Abby. I liked that their relationship grew and everything, and you know, I liked those 2 characters in particular. I thought the police officer, I keep forgetting her fucking name, but police officer was okay. I liked Matthew Lillard as William Afton, and then when he's in the Spring Bonnie or Spring Trap suit at the end, coming in with his head tilted, like coming in, I'm like, oh, that's cool. But yeah, I don't know, like, it was okay. It was just okay. There's a lot of things. There's things I can commend, again, like the practical effects with the animatronics and the way they looked, and the whole pizzeria looked really good, and obviously a couple of characters that I quite liked, that I latched onto, that, you know, they're not incredible, but they're acceptable to me. And then obviously, you know, the story, you know, it's a hit or miss kind of thing, where it's like, you know, I liked the the dramatization, there you go, but I kind of wish it was toned down a little bit to fit in more with the horror, because I love that scene when those people broke into the pizzeria and trashed it, and then obviously the animatronics kind of fought back and killed them, and I thought that was really good. That was the highlight of the film. So I just wish there was kind of more of that, but that's just me personally. Maybe you loved the film, in which case I applaud you. But yeah, I just thought it was okay, you know. But yeah, I think that's about it, guys. Sorry if this review was a bit all over the place, but I just thought I'd give my thoughts on Five Nights at Freddy's as a whole, and then also give my thoughts on the film. Obviously, of course, we're watching the second film tomorrow, me and NerdTube. So I did invite Dusty as well, but she's actually going to be watching it with an older friend who she had watched the first one with. So I was like, oh, that's totally cool. So eventually Dusty will come back and she will make a return at some point. We don't know exactly when, but the next one we can think of on the top of our heads is Scream 7, because I'd gotten her into the Scream franchise a while ago, and this is going to be our first time watching a Scream film in the cinema together. So yeah, maybe look out for that. Maybe there'll hopefully be maybe even one before that, because that's in February in a couple of months time, so hopefully maybe even before then we'll get something out. But either way, yeah, I should be seeing you guys tomorrow for Five Nights at Freddy's 2 alongside NerdTube. So yeah, oh, rating. I'm torn between a 5 and a 6. I don't know. Glad I didn't say 6 and yeah, I hate that. I hate that meme. Anyway, so 5 or 6. I'll give it a 6. I'll give it a 6, which might sound generous to some people because there are fans that don't like it and fans that do love it. But I'm kind of in that middle-ish area. Like, I kind of like it, but I also kind of think it's a bit but 6 out of 10. I hope that's reasonable enough. But yeah, it's a 3-star film. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed my review for Five Nights at Freddy's. Please give it a thumbs up if you did like it. Comment down below what you actually thought of the Five Nights at Freddy's film if you've already watched it. And let me know your expectations for the second film. Are you excited? Are you worried? I've heard not very many good things about it, which concerns me. But there's a lot of critics that don't like it because they're critics and they haven't played the games and don't know the whole thing. But the fans apparently do really like it. I think it was like an 80% on Rotten Tomatoes, but I do take Rotten Tomatoes with a grain of salt these days because, you know, for people who know the history of Rotten Tomatoes, that's why. So anyway, so yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow with NerdTube. Bye.